Apologies for the sound quality on this one. Something went wrong with my good microphone, but it happens sometimes. Been a little while since I've talked about a video game, so let's talk about what I've been streaming for a few months now on Twitch. Final Fantasy VII Remake, or specifically Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, because it's the PC version, and these things just... Let's slap on a random word that means nothing. Sure, let's go full dream drop distance on this nonsense. Anyways, so I did not finish this game. Hang on to that fact. We'll come back to it. I played through the original Final Fantasy VII probably 3 times, start to finish. I liked it a lot. I have done in the past, one of my very early videos was talking about how it kind of ruined the franchise following. I mean, if you really want to see terrible production values and an opinion that I still hold, but like probably could have expressed better, go ahead, check that out. But I do like the original Final Fantasy VII. And I'd heard a lot of good things about this. Now, a couple things before I get too far into it. Keep in mind, this is a kind of game that I really don't play. I don't play the big budget, marquee, AAA games. Partly because for a long time I wasn't really able to. I didn't have a PC that would play them. And in the case of console stuff, I don't have anything newer than a PS3. So stuff like this, for about the past, 8 years or so, like I just haven't played this kind of stuff. The stuff that is, up to date, the high-end stuff. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about, or more accurately, complain about, some of this, or indeed a lot of it, might simply be endemic to the current state of big-budget video games. That's distinctly possible. That doesn't make any of it okay, but if you hear me complain about something and you find yourself thinking, well, lots of games do that. That might be true. I wouldn't know. I don't play this kind of game generally. A big reason I don't play this kind of game generally is because I get motion sickness. And what I found with this was that I had to use the keyboard to control it, because the keyboard controlling the camera kept the camera just moving on one plane at a time. I have a controller now that I can hook into my PC. Then I did try and play with that, but trying to move the camera with the analog stick meant it wasn't just moving on a single plane. It would go like this. I would try and just move it this way and go like that, or go like this, and it would bob a little just because, trying to move an analog stick in precisely only one direction is very imprecise, and then I'd have to correct for it, and suddenly the camera's wavering, not even really that much, but enough to set off my motion sickness. So I had to play with the keyboard, which is probably also not ideal, but that's what I had to do. This is me acknowledging the stuff up front before I start to talk about why I stopped playing. The reason I stopped playing was because I hate this. I played until the game broke me. And I said, I can't deal with this crap anymore. So, pretty much everything I'm going to talk about is gameplay and technicals. To touch on story briefly, there was a lot of stuff I'd forgotten about the original. Like, I'd forgotten Jessie was a character in the original. I know she's expanded in here, but I forgot that she was like a thing at all until somebody pointed out in the comments, no, actually she wasn't the original. And I was like, oh, okay. I think it's just been too long since I played the original. I'd forgotten about Scarlet. When she showed up, whoo! And like there's a scene of her and she's just resting her legs on the back of a guard, and then later she leaves that room and he follows her on his hands and knees like a puppy. Like, there were things that I liked. There were moments I liked. I did enjoy the whole stuff with giving Cloud the makeover. I think that was nicely done. There was stuff to enjoy here. But ultimately, I had to stop because I couldn't stand it anymore. The stuff that I didn't like was not getting better, and I couldn't handle it anymore. And the stuff that I didn't like comes in a couple of flavors, but it basically comes down to 2 things. I hate this combat, and the level design sucks.
That. Now, why don't we start with the combat? I had some people point out in the chat while I was streaming this that, actually this is the best that Square has been able to do with their many attempts to combine turn-based and real-time combat. And my immediate thought to that is, if this is the best it's gotten, they need to just stop. This is a failed experiment, because this is terrible. Here's what I hate about the combat. It hits whatever the opposite of a sweet spot is in terms of trying to blend two different styles together. Now, I'm partial to the turn-based. In my mind, Final Fantasy should be turn-based. But then again, I'm an old-time gamer. I will grant that. But the fact that it has holdovers of turn-based while still being real-time just caused so much frustration for me. I hate that I can select an attack, select a target, but because I haven't positioned them close enough, it can miss. I hate that actions that I have selected can be interrupted by an attack. I hate that even items being used can be interrupted by me being hit. That is all completely counterintuitive to the working through menu selecting attack style of game. And then as far as the real-time goes, I can't embrace that either because it is broken up so much by the menu stuff, because you have to do both. All your best attacks and all your spells are done through the menu selection, which feels like turn-based combat. But you are constantly having to move, dodge roll, block, all this stuff that I don't want to have to do, and a lot of it I'm not good at. I don't have the muscle memory or the player instincts to be very good at guarding or dodging out of a lot of ways and stuff, and I've never had to do that in a Final Fantasy game before. But now I absolutely have to. And I really do get stuck down in the menu during combat, though, because your companions that you're with can't do crap until you take them over or select their attack for them. And also, real irritating thing, I figured out that the enemies seem to automatically lock onto whoever it is you are controlling. So if I find myself in a situation where one of the characters I'm controlling is getting the tar beaten out of them, like they're getting juggled, or more often than not, they just got hit with some kind of attack that made them fall asleep or whatever, and then switch over to another character, suddenly the enemy whips around, still doing the attack that put my first character to sleep, and hits the character I just took over and immediately puts them to sleep. The immediate targeting of whoever I was controlling removed a big part of the instinctive strategy of what I wanted to do. And even trying to take advantage of that wasn't, because I was constantly always having to heal everybody up. And whoever I was using, I was generally trying to attack with, but I was going to have to heal them up because they were about to get the crap kicked out of them because everyone's targeting them. The enemies are really, really damage spongy, and the bosses are insufferable. It looks pretty cool, but I can't appreciate it because I'm face down in the freaking menu for the whole fight. So the visual spectacle of it is wasted, which actually kind of feeds into the fact that I made about the level design being crap. So, this I suspect is going to be a bit more an issue of just modern games in general and something I just haven't had to deal with. The mini-map is such that it's very clear the game is leaning on it as a reason to not properly design intuitive, well laid out levels. If there were not objective markers on this mini-map, about half the time I wouldn't have had a freaking clue where I was going. Because so many of these areas, first of all, a lot of them are too big. I understand that you're trying to make this feel like a city, but you filled it with nonsense and junk and empty space, which all looks the same. Or you're trying to get between districts and you're going down these friggin' corridors between junk piles and they all look the same. Areas are not distinct from one another, and you get lost so easily if you're not fixed on the mini-map. But since you're watching the mini-map more than you are watching the area around you, it also means whenever there is decent level design, which wasn't often, I couldn't appreciate it because I was still staring at the freaking mini-map. It was the only way I was ever going to get anywhere. The mini-map has become a crutch, whereby the expectation is the player's going to be looking at that, so we can count on that to guide them to where they need to be.
which means we don't have to design areas that naturally guide the player from one place to another, guide them to the correct exit, or do anything like that. Because we'll just put a marker on the minimap and they'll follow that. Which was actually the point at which I stopped playing. It was in Shinra Tower. And yes, it was after the stairs. I got up to I knew the stairs were coming. I remember the stairs from the original. The stairs are hilarious. But I get up there and there's like these 3 floors and I'm supposed to like do something to get a clearance on a card to be able to access the next floor. And I can't figure out what the heck triggers it to give me access to the next bit. And the game's not giving me a marker at this point. There's nothing on the minimap directing me to what I actually need to do to be able to progress. And I realized I cannot handle blindly wandering around trying to figure out what the hell this game wants from me. It was probably as much as I said about the minimap, every now and then where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do is either confused by the minimap because it's showing you an objective that is like 5 steps down from what you're actually doing, and it doesn't always show you the objective marker for what the next immediate step of what you need to do is, or it's just not properly laying things out. Either way, this was probably my 6th time of hitting a wall of what does this game want from me? And it wasn't interesting. It wasn't giving me stuff about the world. It was busy work. And that was the point that I said, no. This is deliberately wasting my time, and I refuse to have it wasted any further. There is a lot of time-wasting busy work in this. There are periods where like you have to follow this guy into the sewer and like he's gonna lead you somewhere, and then randomly a creature just comes out of nowhere and grabs a key off him and runs away. So now you have to chase that thing down and get the key back. It's nonsense. It is absolute nonsense, and it's nothing but busy work. It does nothing but fill in time with pointlessness. Speaking of pointless, what they did with the frickin' motorbike thing and this other soldier who you have to fight, what was the point of any of that? That was a waste of time. So much of this game is a waste of time because they are taking what had been just the first third of the original game. It was probably about between 10 to 20 hours of the original game, depending on how thorough you were. They're stretching that out to 40, which means they've taken a story originally tailored to be a much shorter period of time and padded it to hell with nonsense that feels like it's interrupting the main narrative, because it is! I didn't love the voice acting. For the most part. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a problem with the voice acting so much as it is a lot of this dialogue is very accurately reminiscent of the dialogue from the original game, but that dialogue was stuff that just worked better when I didn't have to hear a real-life human try and say it, and hearing people try and speak it like actual dialogue, it suddenly sounds really bad, where it read perfectly fine before. So there's that. The graphics, I mean, they're pretty. NPCs needed to not move their mouths, though. It was horrifying. And like, I understand that whatever the tech is for the main characters, how good their mouth movement is, I understand that was like not worth implementing for every NPC. That's fine. But don't zoom in on their faces when their mouths are doing that. It's disconcerting and it's creepy. I hated that. Hated looking at that. Like, it's fine. It's fine that the mouths are like that, but like, understand your weaknesses. Don't highlight them. And I know that's a tiny nitpicky thing, but like, this game was full of tiny nitpicky things. Things that drove me up the wall. I hated the combat. I hated trying to navigate this world. The story I mostly already know, and the one major new thing, the friggin' Nazguls or whatever they were, I don't know what the deal was. And I know I got about 2/3 of the way through the game, and 2/3 of the way in the game, I still didn't know what the deal with them was, which is too long to hold out on any indication of what's going on. Because the first, you know what, I'll say 3 or 4 times they show up is kind of cool and like, ooh, what's going on? But you know what, after that, every time they showed up and it gave me no new information, it was just annoying. It was just interrupting. It's just being one more way to fill time, waste my time. Let's interrupt this with more of these ghost things. Oh, but what are they? And after the initial intrigue wore off, that question became really very pointed. What are they? Why are you continuing to interrupt the story with them? And yeah, I'll probably look up, I'll Google what the hell the deal is, or I'll watch cinematics, whatever. Maybe. Truth is, I don't care. The game made me not care. I really, really wanted to enjoy this. I thought that maybe this could be my foothold back into AAA gaming. I think all it's done instead is solidified that this just is not for me. I should not be playing this. I should not be playing these kinds of games. I need to stick to my retro stuff. I need to stick to things that are a bit more old school and a bit more, that don't feel the need to be fully rendered 3D, you know, fireworks for the eyes fests. I need to stick to Hades, Death's Door, Unavowed. Like, simple. Something at my level. And if you say that makes me I don't know, don't call me a noob. I've been gaming for longer than most of the people watching this have probably been alive. But like, you want to say that I just can't keep up? Fine, fair enough, but I'm also not having fun. Nothing about this experience made me want to try and keep up with this kind of gaming. So to hell with it. I'll find my old style stuff. I'll play a round of FTL. I'm going to start up Undertale soon, at time of recording. Sure, I'll have fun with that. That's what I need. I don't need this. I don't need this. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Ugh. Whatever your thoughts are about this, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. Got the Patreon. That's how I pay my bills. And that's how I'm able to do things like be able to get these games and play them on Twitch. Link to my Twitch is down in the description if you want that. But, you know, don't worry too much about all that. Try and take a relaxed attitude around here when stuff isn't ticking me the heck off. So you can just come on back next time you need a break.
And credits. I gotta shout out my top Patreon supporters, so thank you very much to Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, Oliver B, Melinda Walters, Leotha Boy, TT, Vernobulax the Poodle, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Caspero, Adam Lefty Taylor, Shane Ross, Robin Moore, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. Couldn't do it without you.